Dan is only 10 years old and already weighs 70 kilograms. Even drinking water has to add a few spoons of sugar to swallow. Chocolate is like his healing potion. A day without chocolate makes his whole body feel uncomfortable. The gymnastics competition that ran SSA several dozen meters made him run out of breath. Lying crawling on the last obstacle, unable to climb over. The teacher helplessly shook her head, ticking the unsatisfactory box in the transcript. Dan also wanted to run all the way, but the force couldn't help it. However, everything has completely changed since Sarah came here. Because Dan's mother was sick and had to be hospitalized for a checkup. But for Dan, this is more painful than death. Compared to living with grandma, it's better to jump off the stairs and die. After all, how scary is the grandmother that makes Dan live worse than death? The first day, Dan's food was completely changed. His favorite fried chicken rice was changed to a bland vegetable soup. This taste makes Dan unable to swallow. He wanted to go back to his room to play games, but his grandmother made him wash the dishes. Since childhood, Dan's mother has never forced Dan to do anything. He turned these bowls into a mess. This old lady is not just a normal nuisance. Dan indignantly took his fork and surreptitiously lifted his grandmother's air mattress. Dung Mama's smile immediately appeared. This time he was able to go back to his room to play games for a while. But the annoying grandma didn't let him get what he wanted.
Baldusz, rower. Ciociu.
She forced him to cycle 500 laps of the yard before going up to the house to play games. Even if you want to be lazy, you can't because there are scary eyes that are always watching Dan. Not finished yet, the bonsai company has delivered the goods. Although there is a door-to-door delivery service, the grandmother insists on placing it in the yard. This time Dan has work to do again. This is the 10th potted plant that Dan has brought to the house. If it continues like this place is about to turn into a tropical jungle. To help Dan lose weight, Mrs. Sarah thought of all sorts of ways. Dan sat on the floor. The only thing he wanted to do now was sing a line, "In this world, only mother is the best." Over the next few days, Dan was repeatedly forced to ride his bicycle, otherwise he would do housework. Unless he's made a habit, he won't be able to stop. Sarah's method is quite effective. Dan no longer stays up all night playing games. Now sleeping in front of the computer is Dan's last stubbornness. But what's scarier is that he can't even sleep well. It's only 5 a.m., Grandma has set the alarm. Then a scene that everyone meets in the morning appeared. Why get up early? Get up early to go to the market. So who's going to the market? Of course it's still Dan. What a nightmare for Dan. Dan wants to eat the syrup, but the main condition is absolutely not let the grandma see. Otherwise it will be changed to 2 pieces of bland tomatoes. At this moment, no one can save Dan. What to do when thirsty? Even if the fridge is full of soft drinks, it has nothing to do with him. Because he can only drink unflavored filtered water. As time passed, Sarah began to think of more tricks to torment Dan. Cycling doesn't satisfy Sarah anymore. Now she makes Dan go swimming. How can Dan endure this torture? He'd rather drown in the water. If he goes on like this, he'll go crazy if he doesn't die. So that midnight Dan woke up, sneaked on the bus to the hospital. He will tell his mother that he wants to go back to his old life. By the time he pushed open the hospital room door, everything became unimportant. The mother slowly took off the wig on her head, just as Dan standing outside the door saw this scene. He is dumbfounded. What is this thing in the end? He only knows that his mother is sick. Looking at his mother's emaciated back, Dan did not have the courage to go inside. He was crying while leaving the hospital in the car.
Gdzieś ty był, chłopaku?
After coming home, he looked out the window melancholy, sad. Even though his grandmother gave him his favorite chocolate candy, he threw it away. Mom called back from the hospital but Dan immediately hung up. Even told grandma.
Ja nie chcę znać żadnej prawdy. Mama sobie kłamie, a ja sobie nie chcę znać żadnej prawdy. I wszyscy jesteśmy zadowoleni. Ja po prostu chcę, żeby mama wróciła do domu.
In the end still can't hide. Dan's mother came home from the hospital and told Dan the truth about her illness.
Mamo.
Dam's mother is very sad, hugs Dam and cries non-stop. Finally, Dam finally understood why his grandmother taught him how to live independently. They drove back to their old house to visit their elderly grandfather. Anyway, Dam's mother doesn't have much time left, they don't want to regret anything. The whole family gathers to grill meat, enjoy family reunion. Dan became obedient and understanding. He wants everyone to know that he is an adult and can take care of himself. He got up and left the garden, heading towards the town a few kilometers away. From childhood to adulthood, even going to school, Dan was picked up by his mother. So when she heard that he went to town by himself, Dan's mother was extremely worried. Quickly run to find Dan. And the grandmother in the back is extremely calm. Because with her help, Dan is no longer the Dan he used to be.
Czy mnie przez cały tydzień chodził sam?
Jakim prawem, ciociu? Oddałam swoje dziecko twojej opiece.
After a while, Dan appeared in front of everyone with 2 trays of eggs. Seeing that, Dan's mother calmed down. So compared to the mother's way of upbringing, the grandmother's way is the right one.
No Teresa, wyluzuj. To jest kumaty gość. Bardzo wiele rozumie.
Dziękuję ci.
Dan also took this opportunity to prove that he can live independently. He hopes his mother can safely go to the hospital to receive treatment. Since then, Dan doesn't hate his grandmother anymore. Moreover, he also called on his mother to learn from her grandmother's education. If in reality, your child is lazy, relying on you, it's because you've made too many decisions and done for it. This is the wrong way to educate, will eventually cause the child to lose the ability to be independent. So sometimes we should let go of them so that children learn to be independent and mature.